Hello, and welcome to Lunch and Learn Live for this, the 19th of October. Happy October Day, wherever you are in the world. As you arrive, do let me know in the comments section where you are in the world and what's for lunch in your neck of the woods. It's good to see you. I can see lots of you arriving straight away. Fabulous. You've been waiting. Hello. Hi, Patricia. Good to see you, darling. Do let me know where you are. Say hi. What's for lunch where you are in your corner of the world? Here in the Cotswolds, it's a bit of an overcast day today. It's been drizzly the last couple of days, but that hasn't stopped me getting out and about. Went blackberry hunting with my son yesterday. It's amazing. I don't think we normally get blackberries this late in the season, do we? Middle of October. But we found enough to make an apple and blackberry pie last night, which went down a treat with the little school holiday kidlets. And I will be getting out and about again later on today because it was really nice to be out in the weather, even though it wasn't fabulous. Hello, everybody. So Patricia is in Berlin and it's cold. For lunch, Brinta. I don't know what Brinta is, Patricia. What is that? Beverly is in wet and dark Somerset. Oh, wet and dark. It's that time of the year. Days are getting shorter. Halloween on the horizon. That's the one. Halloween is the weekend where it all just gets dark. Mandy is outside Inverness about to have a toasted sandwich. Mandy here. Why does your name say Franny, but your thing says Mandy? That is really confusing to me. But who knows? Julie is in Buckinghamshire, although it's so windy I may end up in Oz, she says. Not had time to make lunch yet, so munching on almonds and a banana. Very good. Alison is in wet and warm Buckinghamshire with a cheese toastie. Good to see you. And Anna is joining live whilst the granddaughter is sleeping. We'll do lunch once she wakes up. Oh, very good. Ah, I see. Mandy has a Facebook alias to avoid work snoops. I love it. I wonder if I should do that. That'd be quite funny. Well, wherever you are, darlings, welcome to today's Lunch and Learn Live. Today is going to be a shareable one for sure. We are going to be talking today about how to stop worrying about what people think. Let me know in the comments section if you fall prey to this particular habit that so many of us do. And I won't just say women, I think it's men as well, but we women are particularly sensitive to it. Worrying about what people think and letting that impact our decisions that we make, the actions that we take in our lives, what we speak up about, what we, what we what we do our activism around, all of these sorts of things. We stop ourselves in so many ways because of what people might think. Who can relate to this? Let me know. We're going to have a chat today about if you're feeling drawn to a new direction in your life or you're wanting to speak up about an issue, anything really. But you stop because you're worried what other people are going to think. Maybe you're worried about embarrassing your kids, or maybe you're worried about alienating your friends, or maybe you're worried about putting off potential employers. Speaking of Facebook aliases, we're going to talk about today how to feel confident in your own skin to be able to identify what is right for you, and then to be able to go ahead and do that, speak up, take whatever action it is, with as much as possible not hurting people's feelings or alienating those that you love. Now, we can't make promises on that end, but absolutely we are going to have an exploration in that area. So, great. Patricia is telling me that Brinta is a childhood breakfast she loved and someone brought it for me from the Netherlands. It's like oat flakes with milk. I love it. That's fantastic. So let's talk about this particular issue. Beverly, yes, it's not that I only worry about what people think. It drives my behaviors to exhaustion. And that's the thing, right? If we're spending our whole time wondering and worrying about what other people think about us, it drives us into behaviors that exhaust us. There's no doubt about that. Absolutely. Julie says I do it all the time. Rachel says, I'm much better than I was, but I think it's an age thing. Yes, that's very much the case. It can very much happen in that as we age, we worry less. But how can we fast forward that? How can we increase that? How can we look at what's going on in that has us be even better at it? Yeah. Oh yes, says Helen. Very good, very good. So let's explore. Let's explore this piece. So, how does it happen that we spend our whole lives worrying what other people think? Why? Why would we do that? Well, the answer to this question, I believe, lies in our childhood. It lies in our childhood. So, as small people, our very survival depends upon being the most important thing, the most the most important thing to a parent, preferably two parents, but we'll take one. And we arrange our entire inner world to be the most palatable version of that one person so that we get love and, more importantly, or as importantly, get survival. We get food, we get taken care of. So much of our patterning starts with this first key or couple of key relationships. What our parents think matters to us because our parents are the one accountable and responsible for our well-being. And the child, even the tiny child, knows this. Does this make sense? So we therefore have, I guess it's a survival mechanism and a good one for a child to be able to be, to maintain and to engage and keep the attention of a parent. And depending on how psychologically well or untraumatized our parents were, will depend on how much we have to turn ourselves into a pretzel in childhood to be able to maintain that bond. Because this is the thing, it is absolutely not correct and not right, but the burden of that bond often rests on the child to maintain in especially traumatic kind of situations. And they will do whatever they can. They will not speak up. They'll modify their behavior. We will do all sorts of things to modify that behavior to be able to fit in with what we expect our parent is wanting from us, what their energy tells us is wanting from us. And it's a very animal thing, right? It's almost happening at an animal kind of level to be able to fit in and get the care and the support and the love that we need. Let me know in the comment section how this is landing with you. Alison says, yeah, from the age of 5, I went to Dad's workplace at the end of the school day, so I had to be acceptable to his work colleagues as well. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So this is a critical piece. That's where it comes from. It's like a survival tactic. But we get to a point, and it's also good because human beings are social animals. Martha Beck talks about this in her book, The Way of Integrity, and I think there's some validity to this, which is we are social animals. So in order for survival, we need to fit in with the pack. We don't, it's not helpful for us to stand out, to be completely different or to be ostracized from the pack because our survival depends on that, especially as young children. So this need to be constantly oriented of what are other people thinking, how are they responding to me, and adjusting our behavior accordingly actually is kind of necessary for our survival in childhood. But here's the thing. We get to a point, all of us, where our survival is no longer dependent upon our ability to fit into the pack that we were born into. We don't need to fit into our family pack anymore. We don't need to fit into, we do better. There is no doubt. All of the research points that that human beings who are part of, have some belonging, have some friendships, have some family, have intimacy in their lives, do better health-wise, do better psychological health-wise. We do better. But our survival isn't dependent on it anymore. And we can certainly choose our own pack. But we forget to download the update, the unconscious update to our operational system that says your survival is no longer dependent on what other people think about you, right? That is not the case anymore. Remember that also it was your parents and their parents. They thought their survival depended on what other people think. It's just passed down genetic trauma, right? So we, however, get to a certain age where that is no longer the truth, but we forget to update the software. We forget to update the operating system that we're working with. I love this. Patricia says, I was told by my mother to act normal. That's silly enough. A Dutch expression. I love that. Yeah, Gemma says, I'm aware of things that I'm doing as a parent too, from what you're saying. Absolutely, right? So we do this to our kids. It's good for us to interrupt the pattern. So so first we had to have some compassion for ourselves, because this very important tendency had a role. It had a role, but then we get to a point in our late teens and our early 20s where our executive function, the frontal lobe, develops and is fully functional, where we have developed a strong sense of our individuality. We have hopefully developed our own sense of right and wrong. And what becomes safe now, right, where we're no longer dependent on others, what becomes safe, the safest thing, is to listen to our own wisdom. Because, oh my God, there is nothing less safe than listening to some of the shit wisdom that's out there in the world right now. We have to get good at listening to our own inner wisdom. And our own inner wisdom might be telling us, this job is burning you out. Leave. But we don't listen because of what people might think, because of our old survival mechanisms, right? Our inner wisdom might be saying, stop eating gluten, it's killing you. But we don't, because we like the cake, because we like all of the things. And what might our partner think if we have to now start cooking gluten-free at home? Or we think it is so not right that there is racial injustice in the world. But you don't stand up and say anything because you're too worried. What are my other white friends going to think if I start fighting against racial injustice? How do I do it right? I don't know how to do it right. I'm going to fail, or I won't do it, so we won't do anything at all. We'll just stay really quiet because I'm bound to fuck it up. I'm bound to do it wrong, so I won't do anything because what will other people think? What will people of color think of me if I'm trying to help and I don't know how to do it and I do it wrong and I upset everybody? Well, we won't do that. Or we might be looking around at work and going, this is just not working. The way that we're working on this project is not working. I can see that Shelley should be absolutely taking the lead on this piece, and Amy should be working on that bit, and Frank should be taking this bit. The whole thing is a mess. That would suit them far better. But I'm not going to speak up because what will people think? What will my boss think if I speak up? Will they think that I'm trying to steal their job? Will they hate me? Will they blah, 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 blah? Right? Our old survival fit in with the pack, even if it's not a fucking pack that you chose, right? Our old survival mechanism says fit in with the pack. Don't speak up. Don't speak your truth. Don't act your truth. So first thing, we've got to remember, it had a role. It was helpful. Then we get to a point in our lives where it is no longer helpful. And what is more helpful is our ability to feel into and listen to our truth and act accordingly with it. That is the safest thing we can do. In her great book, Untamed, Glennon Doyle says that if we are listening to our hearts, and I'm paraphrasing, but listening to our hearts and following the truest and most beautiful version of our lives, we will only ever do that which is true and beautiful in the world. We're not going to commit murder. We're not going to, rob banks. We're not going to do bad things, consciously bad things, if we're really connected to that part of us that is the peace, that is the knowing, that is that inner sense of knowing. We won't do those things because that's the main reason people think, oh, well, if I just did everything I wanted, I'd end up hurting people. But in my experience, in my opinion, the times we end up hurting people are when we don't do what our instincts and our intuition is telling us to do. When we overlook it and we build up resentment and we build up layers of pain and we build up layers of ignorance and we build up layers of hurt, and then all of a sudden at work we're shouting at somebody and we're getting fired. Or we build it all up and then all of a sudden we're in a relationship and it's falling apart at the seams because we're not talking to each other, or someone has an affair, or something happens to pull the whole thing falls apart. Or we're building up all of these layers because we're not setting boundaries, we're not doing what's right. And when we end up, disintegrating our relationship with our children. In order for us to blow up any relationship accidentally, we had to blow up the relationship with ourselves first. Right? The only times that relationships break down accidentally is because we stopped listening to what our inner voice, what our inner wisdom was telling us about the truth of that relationship. And it comes as a surprise. You go, oh my God, how did I get here? But you probably stopped listening, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when you were 5. Because of survival. We need to upgrade this, right? We need to upgrade this. So, now let me just talk a little here about that accidental piece, because sometimes listening to our inner wisdom, listening to our inner truth does require that we consciously end or reshape relationships. But it happens consciously. The conversation where you go to a spouse and you say, in the past, you have spoken to me in a way which is disrespectful, and I am no longer willing to tolerate that. If this does not end, I will leave this marriage. You may need to have those conversations, and the marriage may end because that person is incapable of change. But that is a conscious choice for you listening to your inner instinct. Going to an employer and saying, in the past, I have been tolerating doing 80-hour weeks for you, and I am burned out and I am no longer able to do that. If these demands continue, then I cannot continue in this role. And that relationship may end, that thing may end, but it's conscious. It's when things happen accidentally or unconsciously, that's because sometime in the past you stopped listening to the truth. How's this landing, ladies? Let me know how this is landing for you. Beverly says, this is 100% true. Both my partners were poorly parented, and then my maternal grandmother died when I was a year old. This led to me experiencing emotional neglect. I think maybe both my parents were poorly parented, perhaps. The end result is now I have chronic fatigue syndrome due to pushing myself through exactly as you describe. How to move on from this. Yes, that's it, right? So we've got to upgrade because it is unsafe for you to keep worrying about what everyone else is thinking. We need to come inwards, Beverly, and learn what you're thinking. We need to develop your confidence to listen to your instincts. Gemma says, I love Sweary Joe. Yeah, Sweary Joe's in the house today. Julie says, I get that inertia of taking action on things I feel in my heart because I worry not only what people will think, but also about the repercussions. Absolutely. Yeah. I was listening to an interview, Glennon Doyle on her podcast, We Can Do Hard Things, was interviewing Tarana Burke, who's just released an amazing book, which I haven't got yet. I've ordered it, but it hasn't arrived yet, called Unbound, about her journey in life. She was the founder of the Me Too movement. And she talked about how so she was sexually abused as a child, and how a teacher basically said something to her which caused her to not only blame herself for the abuse, but also blame herself that if she spoke up, the repercussions of what would happen to her abuser, to her father who might go defend her and end up in prison because she came from, her uncle was in prison. She understood that context. And what might happen to the adults in her life who might protect her. So she didn't speak up. And this is it, right? What other people might think, what other people might do as children, because we are not parented well. We're parented from the trauma of our parents. It's not their fault. They're parenting through their trauma. We are all parenting through our current trauma. We end up in these kind of repeating patterns. And yeah, I get that. Also the repercussions. Like if I speak up, what's that going to mean for this person? What's their action going to be because of this, right? So we need to upgrade our machinery as adults so that we can do it for our children as well, right? So that we can be better parents and mentors and I think all of us, no matter whether we have our own children, it is our role to parent the next generation well. So how do we do it? How do we do it? Well, how we do it is basically what I describe in my report on how to feel confident in any situation. Which you might go, well, what's confidence got to do with with speaking up and with taking action irrespective of what other people think? Well, for me, that's the ultimate confidence. That's what we're talking about here. Having confidence to do what is right, having confidence to do what is true for you, and having confidence to just say yes to you as opposed to everybody else. Because so that you can be sure of yourself no matter what the situation and comfortable in your own skin. And I can see that Sinead has just put a link to that. There's a great report that Madeline and I put together called at oneofmany.co.uk/confidence. It's completely free. And it helps you to understand things like understanding what confidence is properly and why we often mistake it for over-aggrandizement or overbearingness. It's not that. Confidence is just this ability to listen to your own inner world and act in accordance with it, to speak in accordance with it. For me, that's it. That's the definition of confidence. And the only reason we're not confident is because we compare our confidence to other people around us. Again, what will other people think of my confidence? Which is ridiculous. But if we come from developing this relationship then with ourselves, then we can take action and show up and speak up from that place, knowing that we will fail, knowing that we might upset people, knowing that things will go wrong. There's no guarantee that these things won't happen, but it allows us to let go of fear and self-doubt around it without losing that humility and compassion. Does that make sense? In the report, I talk about how to distinguish true confidence from the need to be in control. Because true confidence comes from knowing that we are completely out of control and that the only truth that we ever have access to really is the truth of this moment and how I feel and what I can see right now. That's it. That's all we can know. We can only ever know the subjective truth. So always just looking for the truest and most beautiful version of what is right and real for you is critical. And that's why I talk so much about developing the 5 women's power types. Because if you work on embodying the 5 women's power types, and for those of you who are in our Living the Change coaching program, releasing the limiting beliefs that other people's opinions are more important, that you don't belong, that you won't fit in, that you won't survive. If you do that, if you release all of that stuff, like keep doing that release work as you go through the program, and you keep developing your 5 women's power types, nurturing that inner warrioress that wants to fight for injustice, that wants to move her body, that wants to be active in the world physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Nurturing your mother energy, that unconditionally loving part of yourself. You all have that part of you, whether you're a biological mother or not. That place of safety, of solace that can feel through to the cycles of things. Nurturing that part of you that is queen, that sees the vision and sets boundaries and goes, no, this is not okay. Nurturing that part of you that is your lover energy. That is the part of you that cherishes your body, that looks after self-care. That part of you that is your body speaking to you, saying, please stop this abuse. Care for me. I remember one of our Lead the Change graduates once said she went to an Ayurvedic retreat and she had massages every day. And she said at the end of her retreat, she said the two massage therapists, because you would often have two massage therapists, she said, those people gave my body more love than I have given my body over the last decade in just the period that she was there, because we don't love our bodies. How can we hear what our body, and our body is our kind of, radio receiver, the way of communicating to us about truth and confidence and how to speak up without worrying what other people think. How can we hear what it's trying to tell us if we're abusing it? By dieting or overeating, by slobbing about or over-exercising, or anything where we're not tuning in. Everything for me is about tuning in. We need to develop that connection to our sorceress energy. That part of you that connects to your version of the divine, whatever that is. You might call that God or Allah or Jesus. You might call that Mother Nature. You might call it the universe or source or the cosmos or divine order, whatever you call it. That speaking to you. And if you can listen to that and listen to your body, two power centers, your intuition and your body's instincts, your body and your emotion, right? The way that reports back to you. If you can listen to them more than you listen to others, you will be safer. It is a completely false economy. The thought, because what is driving this, what will other people think? How will they respond? What will they say? It's all to try and keep you safe. But my love, if you are not listening to your body, if you are not listening to your intuition, I'm here to tell you right now, you are unsafe. Because your wisdom is the only thing that can keep you safe. So developing the confidence to listen to your wisdom, to speak up, to do what your heart is telling you to do is the safest fucking thing you will ever do in your life. That old patterning isn't serving anymore. How is this landing? How is this landing? Patricia says, I'm not afraid to speak up, but to be laughed at. I'm comfortable on stage or speaking in front of a group. I also don't mind to have a different opinion and I will say what I believe. So I wonder where the fear of being laughed at comes from. Patricia, where that comes from is if you are laughed at, you are ostracized, right? If someone is laughing at you, they are distancing themselves from you and you are now no longer a part of the group. You now no longer belong. So it is that old thing. It's that old programming that says in order to be safe, I must fit in. But I think it's Brené Brown who says this so beautifully. She says the opposite of belonging, that true deep sense of belonging that we all want to have, the opposite of that is fitting in. So, okay, you might be happy to speak up, but you'll never say anything that they might laugh at because you want to fit in. But fitting in kills belonging. It's the same place. Deborah says, release, release, release on today's to-do list. Yes, very good. Annette says, I'm in a position where I've spoken up about something that wasn't right for me. I'm now dealing with the fallout, imagining rolling eyes and what people are saying about me. It's so true. I need to go back to basics. This is it, right? Because I can tell you right now, Okay, we said in the description to today, how to speak up and do your thing without upsetting people. The God's honest truth is you can't, because they desperately want you to fit in too. We have this cultural paradigm, this cultural agreed on thing that if we all just stick to it and nobody shakes the boat, we'll be all right. Everybody fit in, please. So if you start speaking up, you start standing in your truth, other people look at that and they go, fuck. It calls it out in them. And they will respond trying to close you down sometimes. Does that mean you don't do it? In my personal experience, no. Because in the past, in the times where I have not listened to my truth early enough, I have ended up making choices that have hurt me, that have hurt people I love, that have deeply hurt my connection with my heart and my soul. So you do it, irrespective of how people are going to show up. We do it from Mother Energy. We do it from a place of love and compassion. We don't have to go, you're all a pack of idiots, right? We can still come from that deeply powerful, I don't know, Mother Teresa is just that beautiful embodiment of Mother Energy. We can speak up. We can speak truth with love, right? And yes, there will often be fallout. Does it mean that those relationships were worth preserving? No. Because if you can't find a sense of belonging in a group of relationships, whether that be a workspace, whether it be family, a family group, a friendship group, if you can't belong as your fully truest, most beautiful version of you, the one that speaks your heart and your mind and your soul, then you're fitting in. You're trying to turn yourself into what you think they want, and that is dangerous. That leads to bad habits. Trying to fit in and turn ourselves into something that we're not leads to suppressing emotions, leads to overeating to numb emotions, leads to drinking to numb emotions, leads to drug habits to numb emotions, leads to martyr habits to numb emotions, leads to too much Netflix to numb emotions, leads to too much sex to numb emotions, leads to affairs, leads to friendship breakdowns, leads to all sorts of things, because you are not a vessel through which emotion, truth, and reality can move. Does this make sense, ladies? It is hard not to worry. Alison says it's hard not to worry. But what if they are, says they wish they had your courage? I don't know what that means, but yes, it is. Cynthia says, I relate in that I have experienced an entire family structure bad-mouthing me for decades. I cut them off 25 years ago, the best thing I ever did. But they resurface, so I have to keep reminding myself of my own confidences and successes. We sometimes have to do that. We do sometimes have to do that. Julie says, the difficult boundary that I need to set that I've avoided needs to be put in place ASAP. Yes, indeed. Kay said, this is spot on. Push-pull emotions on speaking out and visibility. Yeah, good. Good. So, my darlings, if you haven't already read it, please get our confidence guide called Serene, Strong, and Self-Assured, right? How you can feel confident in any situation, to speak up, to be able to stand your ground, to be able to take whatever action is true and right and real for you. The guide explains it all. You can get it at oneofmany.co.uk/confidence. And if today's session has been helpful for you, if there have been some truths here that you know have made a difference, my deepest invitation and my heartfelt request is that you share today's video with someone you care about, either by sharing it to your own Facebook page, sending somebody to the YouTube channel, tagging a friend, or sending it in Messenger. Any way that you share great content with people, we ask that you do that. We are on a mission here at One of Many to equip 1 million women with the tools to stand up for what they believe in, to speak up for what they believe in, and to change their corner of the world. And this piece around confidence, this piece around self-assurance and safety, really, I believe is one of the most critical and fundamental pieces. So please share it far and wide. Who do you know needs a bit of self-assurance and needs a little bit of self-confidence today? I would love for you to share it with them. Thank you once more for being here with me today. This is Lunch and Learn. I'll be back next Tuesday with more great insights into how to step up and change your corner of the world. Lots of love to you. Have a fabulous day. Bye.